see we have reached 47 people, and many more are joining in. We shall begin with the anthem, then the university anthem before I share the program with us. And it's exactly 11 a.m. I think we begin with the university anthem. Of our first Christ and the whole, I just take that I will lead the war. Virtute et sapientia. Men faithful to the name. Uganda Matters University, a place of love where it is good to be. Guide us in wisdom to lead the world. Virtute et sapientia. I would like once again to welcome everyone today for this very important academic activity during the course of academic year as we prepare for the graduation, the 26th graduation of our university, which is taking place tomorrow. And I'm very delighted to inform you that we have as our facilitator of this commencement lecture, Professor Waswa Balunya, who will be introduced at a later time. And this is very, very important. Like I said before, I would like to ask every one of us to be very conscious that we are online. Whatever you do is being recorded. You are going to create an atmosphere where we listen to each other, we respect each other. Be careful how you use your cameras, how you use your microphone. You switch it off when you're not going to talk. And I'll ask the technical team also to be helping us. On the screen is our program. I must say I'm not very certain if I'm audible enough. You can write in the chat. We have a chat room. So many things we want to communicate. Let's use also the chat. If you don't hear me, can I see if you hear me by writing yes on the chat, or you can just click where there is a finger like this. You can hear me. Thank you very much. Great. We want to have a very fruitful lecture, and let's not distract each other. Here is the program. We've done with the registration online. We have had the anthem, and we're going to have welcoming remarks from Associate Professor Ngabirano, and he will introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Balunya. He will say something about Professor Balunya. Then after, we shall have the commencement lecture, whose theme or title is, what will post-COVID-19 employability mean for Ugandan youth? Opportunities and challenges for Ugandan graduates. Professor Balunya will take us through this. And the discussion will be led by none other than Mr. Ambrose Kibuka Muchibi, who is an education career consultant and who has written a lot about employability of the graduates especially. He's also one of our illustrious alumni. We are very proud of you, Ambrose, if you know that. I also take you in the question and answer session after this. Then we shall have closing remarks from the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academic affairs, Professor Mawa. At this juncture, allow me to invite Professor Maximiano Ngabirano to give us the welcoming remarks and introduce to us the keynote speaker. Professor Max. Can the technical part help us with that sound? It is a bit disturbing. I don't know what it's. So, Professor Max, are you there? Professor Max, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. So I want to welcome you to Uganda Matters University, and most especially to this 8th commencement lecture delivered by none other by Professor Wasa Barunya. Uganda Matters University this year celebrated 27 years of existence. We could mute those people who are not supposed to be speaking. And it prides herself of academic excellence in Uganda and abroad, was especially for making a difference in all areas and fields and levels where our graduates are participating, either as innovators.
Can I ask the persons to mute the iPhone, which is, I think, making the noise?
Uganda Matters University prides herself of having the graduates working the difference in many areas where they are employed, or they are employing others, or are innovating. We come here today to celebrate the fruits of our labor as lecturers and students, and mostly I'm addressing myself to the graduates of tomorrow's graduation who have accomplished their studies at Uganda Matters University and are found fit worthy to obtain the papers of Uganda Matters University and being churned out to go and serve the community in the fields where they have been participating and working and learning to go and change the world. We are aware that today's culture, the culture in Uganda, the culture outside Uganda, especially of our graduates, the culture is proving that we have many students, many graduates who are unemployed. At Uganda Matters University, we have made it a point to see that a graduate who graduates from our university has a place to change in our society. To change in our society by being an entrepreneur, by being an employer, and if being an entrepreneur and employer does not work, he becomes best suited to be employable at any area and field where the student is. At this juncture, you allow me to introduce to you our guest today, the guest who is giving us a speech, a word of this commencement lecture. Our guest is Professor Wasa Barunya, who is currently a principal of Makerere University Business School. He has been teaching in university for over 30 years, primarily in business administration, accounting, finance, and management. In recent years, Professor Barunya has focused on teaching and researching into entrepreneurship, strategy, change management, and leadership. He led a team that started private programs in Makerere University, changing the landscape of higher education, not only in the country, but in the region. He is some architects of moves and created moves, a leading business school in the region. The school started as a faculty of commerce with 1 degree program and about 220 students. It now has over 20 graduate programs, 11 master's programs, and a PhD. The current student population is about 20,000 students. Professor Barunya holds a PhD in entrepreneurship from the University of Stirling, United States, United Kingdom, and has become
to help with the noise.
an
Otherwise,
MBA
we are not
from the
managing.
University
Technical team,
of
please.
Delhi, India.
Please, the technical team, Ashaba, can you help to mute those people? Otherwise, we are not following well. If you cannot give me the hostship.
Has published books and articles, the blogger and writer, extensively the management and social issues. He has been called.
Please, you are interrupting. I told you at the beginning. The
He is a patron of different associations, including ISEC and YPMA. Professor Barunya is also a social entrepreneur and works with members of his family to support vulnerable women, youth, especially the girl child in his community. The Barunya Foundation, of which he's a director, is trying to put girls who have been denied education into schools. He is widely traveled and has interest in yoga and wrestling. Before us, we have this able academic, able professor, and I welcome him to come and speak to us, Professor.
will allow me to remove my mask. I hope we are safe in the distances that we have. The Vice Chancellor of the Uganda Matters University, Deputy Vice Chancellor, the various officials of the university. May I take this opportunity to congratulate the university on the graduation. Allow me also to congratulate the students who are graduating. These students are the ones we are challenging today. While we congratulate you, we want to challenge you. As you go out, what is going to happen? COVID-19 has been with us. It's been a major game changer globally. In this country, we didn't feel it until recently, when individual families have started losing individuals, losing family members. That's when we started feeling the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. So this pandemic creates various challenges. Among them is the challenge of unemployment. So as our graduates come out of the universities, the question that we need to raise is, are they employable? And this is the topic I want to discuss this morning. And I'd like to thank the university for giving me this opportunity to be able to make some presentation on this very, very important issue. My topic, as has been introduced, is what will post-COVID employability mean for Ugandan youth? Opportunities and challenges for the Ugandan graduates. But I must say, this is much wider. The graduates are simply very few. The challenge we have is much, much wider than simply those people who are coming out of the universities. I want to thank Ugandan Matters University, a wonderful job that they have done. We have people who have graduated from there. We have some of them as professors here, and you see the quality of the student. And we'd like to thank you for that, the values that you have instilled in the people who study at that university. I hope that all of us in our different university institutions would also emulate Uganda Matters University so that we're able to create people with certain values which are beneficial to the society. As I've been introduced, I'm the principal of Mackay University Business School, and it's a pleasure for me to be here to share a few things on employability of our graduates. In my discussion, I'll talk about COVID-19 and its impact on economies. I'll also bring out the idea of the graduating students. I would also wish to bring out the changing landscape, job landscape globally, what is happening, and also the new skills and the new jobs that are emerging, and also be able to compare whether we as Uganda are being able to bring out the right graduate who is able to go out and be employable or employ others. I want to look at the opportunities for graduates, and finally, I would like to look at the challenges and prescribe a way ahead for our young people. COVID-19 is probably the most single disruptive phenomenon that we have seen in recent history. Those of you who are old enough may have heard about the Great Depression, which took place between 1929 and 1939. It was a global phenomenon around the world, causing a lot of misery in various countries. But COVID-19 has been much worse, primarily because it has health issues. It has death issues. So COVID, as we all know, started in China in November 2019, and it was declared a world pandemic in January by the World Health Organization. The challenge with it is that if you are not careful, it's likely to kill you. So that's why the pandemic poses various challenges globally. What has happened? Effects of COVID have been that the world locked down various economies. Nearly all economic activities stopped, except for essential services. People were laid off. Businesses were closed. And this lockdown lasted up to 3 months, 6 months. I think in the Western countries, they opened up because they realized the economies could not take it anymore. In Uganda, up to now, the lockdown has not been fully opened up. And in Europe, they are starting a second lockdown. I think in Britain, in France, in Germany, about to start. And they even expect that we may have another lockdown, a third lockdown in those countries. But it's a very interesting phenomenon. Tanzania did not lock down. And Tanzania, we see the president and many people walking around without masks, because there is a concept of what they call herd immunity, group immunity. Has Tanzania got herd immunity? Is it the reason why they are walking around without bothering about the mask? But when you listen to some of the Tanzanians, they say, yes, there is a serious problem. And it appears the problem we are having right now has been the problem Tanzania has had. So will this challenge tip and start going down? We don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So globally, we see the number of people who have been infected is 73.6 million. The number of recoveries is about 41.7 million. The number of deaths is up to 1.64 million. In Uganda, the reported cases have been 28,000. The recovery is 10,000, and the deaths 205. But in the last 1 month or so, recent weeks, there are a lot of deaths that are being reported in Uganda, which we believe may not be recorded or may not be reported officially. Many prominent people have died, and we are always hearing the suspect of COVID-19. A lot of old people are dying, and when they die, at times we don't know whether they are officially reported or whether they have been officially diagnosed as having COVID-19. So we have this challenge in this country that we really don't know the magnitude of the problem. So will COVID end? Because we're talking about post-COVID employability. That assumes that COVID is going to end sometime. But many people think there's no end in sight for COVID yet. Some people believe that the whole of 2021 will still continue to be a COVID year. Some people believe that possibly with the vaccine, people's lifestyle may change, but the vaccine has a problem and suspected to have been tampered with. So vaccines have been surrounded with controversies. So we don't know. Some people are telling us, don't be vaccinated. And yet the solution in addressing COVID lies in having a vaccine. And yet the world economies must open up if the world is going to operate to a near normal, if we are going to have incomes, if people are not going to starve in their homes. We are very lucky in Africa that while we are so poor, because we live off our backyard farms, we are able to go into our homes and eat food, which cannot happen in the Western countries. What is happening right now in the Western countries, as a lockdown, government brings food. It gives you a check whenever you go and buy food. That cannot happen here. But we thank God that we have not had a famine in this country and indeed in many African countries. So the virus cannot be stopped because it is not a natural virus, as you heard. It is something manufactured in a lab, and it cannot be stopped possibly. This is why even the vaccine may not actually work, because there are reports that people who took that money for the vaccine trials have all died. It's also reported, I think yesterday, that some got HIV/AIDS as a result of that. So we don't know, is COVID going to end? I don't think we can see clearly where the end of COVID is, but it's going to be with us for the next 1 year or so, and we must learn to live with it in various ways. So what has been the impact of COVID on Uganda? Maybe, first of all, worldwide, COVID has exposed vulnerable people. It has shown us that those people who are poor are more vulnerable. It has exposed inequalities among people. There are people who have a lot of money in their banks and they don't really care whether they work or not. And yet some people could not live for a day. You know, they had to leave their homes, come back to work because they felt that the only way they could survive is to be able to work. COVID led to the shutdown of education institutions globally. Most institutions were closed down. In this country, we locked down 14 million people who are in the education institutions. That whole economy went down. And it led to a lot of bankruptcies in many companies. Many companies, of course, in this country, we don't have that bankruptcy law, but in the developed countries, many economies, many companies filed for bankruptcy because they could not live with COVID. In Uganda, the Uganda economy is reported to have slowed down by about 50% in the financial year 2019-2020. What does that mean? That means that the amount of production in the economy may have gone down to 50%. When it started, we had estimated this about 30%, but we are now getting the actual figures. And what does that mean? That means that government tax revenue has tremendously gone down. That means that the production in the country has gone down. And the number of poor people is likely to increase as a result of this. There has been a major shortfall in domestic tax revenues. I know the Uganda government has been borrowing from IMF, but recently the PSST told us that there is no money for even Christmas celebrations because of cutting back. You know, there's no money to spend on Christmas. So it's a luxury as such, because the money is not there. There's reduced access to finance, closure of schools, closure of businesses in this country is something we've seen. We recently met this person who had a school and had transformed it into a shopping mall, you know, because he said, when shall I wait for students to come back? I need money to be able to feed myself. So the country has been challenged. People have been challenged. Businesses are closing. People are losing their jobs. And this is a very big problem because of the COVID-19. So we have graduating students. And the issue is, what is the effect of COVID-19 on the graduating students? Let's keep note that the economy has contracted. When the economy contracts, it means that there are less jobs. Businesses have closed. As businesses close, it means that there are less jobs. People have been laid off. As people are laid off, it means that the graduating student is going to compete with people who already had jobs, have skills, and now they are going to compete together. And in government, it was said you should only have 30% of employees in the office. Here, because of the recent infections, we have actually asked everybody to go home, except for a few essential people, because we are noticing, especially with the students, that they were not observing the SOPs, and you could not force them. So after exams, we've really scaled down on the numbers who can be here. So there are thousands out of work, and it's you, the graduating student, who now has to contend with those conditions. So the question we need to raise, are you employable? And if you're employable, how do you compete with those people who have been laid off, who already have skills? So for the graduating students, where are the jobs? In light of what is happening with the COVID-19, where are the jobs? What kind of jobs exist? What kind of skills are required? What kind of skills do you have as a graduating student? Are you employable? These are the questions that we are raising now, which we want to have a hint on where we are going. So are our graduates employable? The answer is yes, to a great extent. You heard in the introduction that Matters University has attempted to give skills to students so that they're employable. So our graduates are employable. Our graduates are employable because they're the result of our education system. The system has challenges, and it has, to a great extent, also created unemployable graduates. The large number of people that are being churned out of our various universities, some of them are unemployable. Do our graduates have the appropriate skills? Yes, some have, but it's possible that the majority don't have. And there's a contradiction here. Do universities impart skills, or do universities simply open up where we have those internships which last almost a year, where people come out with skills? Is it possible that in our ordinary universities, we too can have these skills? And the answer is no.
Am I the one who is off? Hello, Prof. We've lost you. See how we reconnect with Professor Barunywa. We lost him. Just some bit of patience. We've find out a solution. Hello, Prof. Are you back? I think there is still a connection problem, but we're trying to find him. Just a little bit of patience as we sort this out, friends. Professor Max, we have lost Professor Barunywa. Can you help to reconnect? Professor Max, any information? Is there anything being done about it? Professor Max, you could tell Professor Barunywa that he's muted. He's on but muted. Can unmute. All the technical people can help to unmute him. Technical team, you can help with the unmuting Professor Barunywa. I think he has trouble unmuting.
Yes, we've now been given opportunity to unmute, yes. Sorry for the interruption, challenges with the new technologies. So I was looking at the employability of our graduates, and I was saying, yes, to a great extent, some of our graduates are employable. But the challenge is, do universities impart skills? Universities are intended to open up the minds of people, create a paper, a mind on which anybody can write. Skills take time to be acquired. So universities may not be in a position to give these skills to students. As we are aware, it's medical schools where graduates normally come out with some degree of skills. So what is the problem? We have very little linkage between industry and business institutions and education institutions. There's a report by Japan which indicates that to be able to produce, the motor industry has approximately 170 skills that they require. But some of these skills, only a few of them are available in universities. The other skills are available in the various institutions, in the company, in the factories. They must be given by the factories where these people work. So So this small linkage or little linkage between industry and education institutions is one of the reasons why our graduates are unemployable generally. And it's also reported that in this country, we have tended to focus on examinations, not learning. This has created a problem. Of course, we know that universities are not adequately funded. We have this challenge, they lack facilities, and universities are not following trends. For instance, as you see, the jobs are changing tremendously, but what are we doing about it? And we also have a challenge of corruption in the economy, which is causing a lot of problems. It's said that in many institutions, people pay to be able to pass exams. But I don't believe that this happens in Matters University, neither does it happen here in MOOBS. We have got very strict quality assurance measures that we've tried to ensure that corruption is not a problem in our midst. So I want you to look at some of the most attractive employers today. Look at them: Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Deloitte, Goldman Sachs, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Morgan. Now, if you look at most of these, maybe other than Nike, there is no company there that manufactures anything. What does this mean for the future? All those companies are service-oriented, and most of them are IT-related, big tech companies. So are we keeping the trend as universities to know who is the biggest employer? And these are the biggest companies, and they're most attractive employers. So what skill do you need to go into that kind of company? These are the companies, of course. You can see that now the producing companies are at the lower end. Johnson & Johnson, Unilever, Daimler-Benz, Procter & Gamble, they are now at the lower end of the chart in terms of the most attractive employers. Now, the Uganda economy, as we look at employability, what are the challenges of the Uganda economy? Where are the jobs? 80% of the Ugandan population lives in rural areas. What does that mean? That those people are actually poor. They're outside the working system. 70% of the population is in agriculture. What does that mean? That a large number of Ugandans are not in the mainstream economic system of the country. They live off subsistence. Agriculture, we still continue to use the primitive production methods. I always talk about this and I complain. At my age, I was born people in my home were using hose. Today, they still use a hoe. I don't know how many times you change your phone, how many times you change your laptop. This tells us about the challenges in the economy. 20% of people are in urban areas, but 12% are poor. So in this whole economy, it's about 8% of the population that you can compare to the people in the developed countries. When you're talking about jobs in banks, in Google, and others, it only affects a very small number of people in the economy. And this should worry us. Fortunately, the graduates are part of that 80%, though a large number of them are not employed. So look at it this way. About 1 million, over 1 million children enter primary school, and by P7, it's only about 250 who are able to go through. What happens to the other 750? They drop out. What is the consequence of this? Illiteracy. In our tertiary institutions, we have about 200,000 people. If you bring in 1 million, and in tertiary institutions, you have 200,000 in total for the 3 years, then there's a problem in the economy. And unfortunately, we only have about 100,000 in technical and vocational institutions, whereas it should be the other way around. We need a ratio of 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 in technical institutions as against universities. So it means we have more people in universities rather than in technical institutions, and that's a problem for the economy. We're not creating the right jobs. We're not producing the right candidates. So there's a report that we have 40,000 graduates and only 8,000 jobs are created annually. So our graduates are employable. The economy is still very small. Our economy is still very small. When you have these 80% people in rural areas, really it tells you a story that there's a predominance of agriculture, there is a semi-literate population, we have a small middle class, and therefore we can't move ahead as an economy. So do our graduates have the right skills? Do they have the right skills? Given the changing nature of jobs globally, are we as universities producing the right people? I want us to look at the degree programs that we are offering. When did we last change them? I know that as a lecturer, I should be able to adjust my syllabus on an annual basis, maybe 5–10% change to be able to adapt to modern changing conditions. But am I doing research to be able to do that? These are some of the challenges that you get. So what are the opportunities for graduates? Given the qualification that they have some degree of employability. You know, many of our graduates join companies, banks, and other institutions. So to that extent, they have they can be employable. But the number of jobs is limited, as I've indicated to you. And we have a challenge. The predominant mindset of our graduates is to seek jobs. So this renders them unemployed while they cannot find a job, because they believe that I must be in a job. And they have opportunity to start business, but their mindset doesn't allow them to go in there. So we need to think a lot about how these opportunities can be opened to graduates to be able to enable them grab them and take them. I want to show you something interesting, what is happening in our this is a machine that lays bricks. What are we teaching in our technical institutions? Where are the jobs? This machine is taking away the jobs. This machine is called SAM, and we are talking about robotics, part of the new technologies that are emerging. So where are the jobs that we are talking about? Where are the skills if machines are taking over the skills? So at times you have these people who come to work on your site, and at times they don't show up. Some will show up all the time. I also want to show you another video. Yes, this is a video that plasters a wall. If you have ever built a house, you may go into your house and you estimate this will take a day or two to plaster this wall. This machine does it in a few minutes. The machines are taking over the skills that we've been having. So are we employable anymore? And yes, I've been complaining about from the time I was born, we use a hoe to dig. So our productivity is very low. But look at this machine. And is it possible that this country cannot make that machine to improve the productivity of agriculture? So you can imagine how many people would do that if you employed them. How many people can do that? If we are going to change the country, we must be able to adopt modern technologies. And these technologies are going to increase the level of our production and the level of our productivity and make us much more competitive than what we are at the moment. Of course, there's another one here. I'm sure you've seen some people harvesting their rice or harvesting their maize. Look at these machines. So in a sense, if these machines are taking over the jobs, are our graduates employable? Do they have the skills? Because even those old traditional skills, like laying bricks, are being taken over by robotics. So it's a very important question to ask whether our graduates are employable. Look at what is happening. What are the new top emerging jobs in recent years? The data scientist, analyst, artificial intelligence, machine learning, software application, sales and marketing. Of course, these ones never end. Big data specialists. We've been trying to do a big data degree for the last 2 years. We've got no approval, telling you that as a country, we are really not moving with the trends, because big data is the in thing. So these are the jobs that are coming up. Look at the jobs that are declining. Look at the administrative jobs, accounting, assembly, factory workers, because they are being replaced by machines, including accountants and auditors. These people are getting out of fashion. So if we are creating graduates who are accountants, who hope to be accountants, we must watch out. Will they have jobs? Will they be employable in the coming years? Look at the skills that we require in 2022: analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, technology design, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving. These are the skills that we want to see in 2022. Of course, the social skills are still very important. Leadership, extremely important to be able to provide vision and enable organizations to succeed. So what is declining? The jobs that are going to decline include those jobs that we've been seeing all along. I don't want to go into those details, but you know what we're doing at the moment. In the next 5 years, they may not be here. So are our universities ready? Are we following the trend? All these jobs are going away in a very short time. And therefore, to create an employable graduate, universities must follow trends and adjust their programs accordingly. So the trend, the top skills today is complex problem solving, critical thinking, people management, judgment, decision-making, service orientation, negotiations, and cognitive flexibility, which is about creativity and innovation. So for you who is graduating tomorrow, you have the right skills to take you into the market. You have those right skills. This is the employment challenge that we have. COVID-19 has not yet ended, so we should not say post-COVID. We are actually talking about being employable within the COVID times. Possibly that job that you're going to get into should be the one to influence the end of COVID. COVID may be with us for a long time, but we need to survive. We need our companies to be able to work. We must acquire the necessary skills. And our current economy has no capacity to handle all our graduates. So all our graduates are not employable, despite the small number that the economy is able to take up. Our graduates, therefore, must rise to the occasion. You as a person who is graduating today, if there are no jobs, you must rise to the occasion. You are educated, you are privileged, and you are different. Remember, you are part of that small 8% of the population in this country. So go out and change the world as a graduate of UMU. If you cannot find a job, go and create one. That's why you're educated. That's why you're different. You have that privilege of the knowledge that you have. Don't keep that knowledge walking on the street looking for a job. Go out and create one. So the post-COVID skills, if I use that word post, though this right now, is critical thinking, creativity and innovation, the ability to be flexible and adaptable, the ability to lead people and see things differently, the ability to communicate, and emotional intelligence. These are some of the skills that we want to see. But we must also note that as COVID ravages the world, there's another phenomenon that is taking place. This is the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, we've had 4 revolutions. This is the fourth. This is emerging along with COVID-19. COVID-19 has made it even stand out much more than other technologies. This new technology is changing the world. Today I am here making this presentation on a Zoom technology. I believe if it was not for COVID, I would not be here. We would be in the graduation ceremony. But this Zoom technology has been with us for some time, except that we did not believe in it. We didn't want to change. Today, COVID is making us change. So we must keep in mind that there are 2 things, COVID-19 and the fourth industrial revolution, which are driving the current change. And for you to be able to get gainful employment, you must keep those 2 things in mind. So these 2 are changing the world, and the technologies that we are seeing include the following. These are the technology of the fourth industrial revolution: artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, robotics. We've seen those robots doing the work, replacing people. Blockchain. Blockchain, these are cryptocurrencies which are already with us. Big data. This is something that is very important today, that Google, Facebook, they all have people's data. And the question is, how do you deal with this data? The cloud. So graduates must learn the skills emerging from these technologies if you want to be employable. These technologies include, of course, email marketing, Internet of Things, social media marketing, communication, online dealing, creating and editing, cybersecurity, programming, blockchain. All these are digital skills that you must be able to learn to be able to get out of COVID with a job, with something to do that gives you money. But that's not all. You need business startup skills. If we say go out and create something, you must have that ability to create it. And this is one of the responsibilities of universities, to be able to teach this. But while we teach it, we don't give the skill. The skill arises from doing and from experience. So we must also be able to give our students knowledge in risk assessment, leadership, networking, delegation, financial literacy, marketing, communication, negotiation, time management, positive attitude, and general management knowledge to enable them start up businesses. Because without that, as you tell them to go and create jobs, they must have the ability to do so. So we have what it takes as we graduate. You as a person who is graduating out there, you have what it takes to go and create something new. You have what it takes to be different from other people, so that you are not the same as people who are looking for jobs. The statistics indicate that only 3 out of 10 Ugandans can ever start a business. Are you one of them? If you are not, then you need to fit into that figure, so you increase that percentage. And what does it take? It takes a mindset. We have been programmed as Ugandans. We have been programmed to have certain beliefs. For instance, the Bagishu know that if you want to be a man, you must throw the knife. The Banyankole believe that for you, if you're successful, you must have cows. Mindset. We have been programmed to look for jobs. Mindset. We have been programmed that if you have a degree, you must find a white-collar job. It's a mindset. So we have a fixed mindset. And if we are going to be able to be different, if we are going to go out and create employment, we must change this mindset. Get out of that mindset. You too can succeed. You too can do it. You too can start a business. And it's very important for us to appreciate the importance of business in today's world. It is business that puts food on our tables. It's business that gives jobs. It's business that through taxation enables government to work. It's business that enables religious institutions to work. So business is extremely important, and the owners of business, the people who start businesses, the Bezos of this world, the Steve Jobs of this world, the Microsofts, the Mulanas, the Wavamunos, these are the most important people in society today. And therefore, can you be part of them? So you need to build a growth mindset, a mindset that believes that you can succeed. You need to dream of your future as one of the business owners in this world. You must seek the necessary skills for yourself. Nobody is going to do it for you. Nobody is going to make you succeed. It is entirely upon you to succeed. Take that decision to start. But of course, government has a role to play in it. Individuals cannot succeed without government support. So our government must set up post-COVID training programs for graduates. I know there's been something to do with scaling. Our government must improve access to finance. There has been some effort in these areas. But our government must create an incentive to lower population growth, because poverty is coming from too many people with a small piece of bread. I think the population of Britain has been about 50 to 60 million for the last 20 years. 20, 30, 40 years. The population of Uganda has grown from 10 million to 40 million with a smaller cake. That means there's massive poverty in the country. Government must reform our educational system. It's extremely important. Everybody must go to school and must stay in school, especially the young girls. Because the young girls are producing children at age 14. They're not producing children, they're producing poverty. So keep everybody in school. Put emphasis on science. Let government fund all the science education programs in this country. Singapore was able to do that and it changed. Government must provide infrastructure, of course. I must accept there has been a lot of infrastructure there. But government must also invest in agriculture to be able to improve production and productivity in agriculture. What is the way ahead? For you who is graduating tomorrow, it's very important that you develop a right attitude. Attitude is extremely important. The right attitude is a growth-oriented mindset that is creative and innovative. Otherwise, you are comfortable with poverty. If you don't find a job, you are well off staying on the street, continue to look for one because of the mindset. The right attitude enables you to believe in yourself. You are good. God never makes junk. You're good enough. A right mindset empowers one to solve societal problems. And a right mindset empowers one to start an economic activity. If you have that right mindset, you will be the candidate to start a business and be counted as one of those people who created change in this world. Today we hear of Bezos, we hear of Elon Musk. Why? Because they have been different. They've got that right attitude, which says, I must do something, create something new. So in conclusion, for you as a graduating student, you must use critical thinking, have a vision of the future. If you don't see where you're going, any road will take you there. If you want to step forward, please continue to walk the street and look for the job. If you want us, as we put you 6 foot down there, for us, remember you were simple as a number. That 2 people were buried, just a number. But if you are able to do something in this world, you will not be a number. Use your creative mind to start up businesses and think differently. Why do you think like everybody else does? You must have discipline. You must be disciplined and focused on what you want to achieve. Be confident. You can do it. Like I said, God doesn't make junk. You must be able to adopt the modern technologies that we see that are emerging. You must also be able to develop the social skills, emotional intelligence, ability to communicate, self-awareness. All these are very important if you're going to succeed in your career as a business person. Remember, success is a journey, not an end. And this means you must continue that journey. Do not lower your guard. Do not ever think that you have succeeded. Because success is a never-ending journey. I want to thank you very much. Congratulations on your graduation. I wish you all the very best, and may God bless you all.
Can we put our hands together to thank Professor? You can either do it technically or you even clap, we shall hear you. Thank you very much, Professor Barunywa, for that very, very captivating talk. I think we have been following, and there are very many key issues that we have raised. And very many people have been asking me about whether they will get a copy of the same. I think with the new technologies, we could just share a link of this recording, and those who want can, because the slides will not have your voice. So I would think we would share the link and then people can have access to it. We thank you, Professor. At this juncture, allow me to invite Mr. Ambrose Chibuka Mochibi, an education career consultant, to begin the discussion on what has been presented. Mr. Ambrose Chibuka. Can the one who is in charge of professors sharing, please stop sharing stop sharing so that we may give, yeah, exactly. Search book, are you there? Ambrose, are you there? Technical people, can you help to unmute Ambrose? Maybe he's muted, not so sure. I don't know which name you used, Ambrose. I would unmute you. Ambrose, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. My audio and video was muted from that end.
Very sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. Can you hear me?
Very well, very clearly. We hear you.
Great. Thank you so very much. I'm very honored to have been asked to discuss or share some insights emerging from Professor Balunya's presentation. Like you did, I introduced Ambrose Chibuka Mchivi is my name, and I'm the president of Uganda Matters University Alumni Association. By sector, and in this context, I'm an education and careers consultant. And I've been doing this since 1998. I feel very honored and challenged indeed to discuss the amazing paper presentation that has been made by Professor Balunya. And I want to thank him very much because he has brought out the key issues that we need to reflect on. I like the fact that he actually did question the whole notion of post-COVID, because yet we are not yet in the post-COVID. We are not sure when we will be past the COVID. But one thing we are sure is we are living in the aftermath of COVID-19. How long we will stay in it, only God knows. I like, without taking a lot of time, to go straight now to what I pick from the presentation, and indeed, if necessary, some additional insights. What will post-COVID-19 employability mean for Ugandan youth? And we are looking at opportunities and challenges for Ugandan graduates. I like the fact that Professor Balunya highlighted the fourth industrial revolution. Now, in view of the fourth industrial revolution, I think that COVID-19 has only done one thing: to fast track the inevitable. There is nothing in terms of challenges to higher education that COVID-19 has brought to the surface that was not bound to happen. That's one. Two, like I did say, COVID-19 only fast-tracked. everything that is happening now in terms of challenges to higher education in the context of COVID-19 was expected. And one of the things that confirmed that it was expected is the fact that the tools we are using today in higher education to respond to the challenges posed by COVID-19, all of these tools were there before the invasion of COVID-19. In fact, many of these tools have been with us for over 10 years. Why is it that institutions of higher learning took so long to respond? In fact, I even ask myself whether they were about to respond if COVID-19 had not struck. Why did we continue to pursue higher education as if the tools for e-learning were not there? Why did we continue to operate in isolation as universities, as institutions of higher learning, in isolation as if industry did not exist? Why did we continue to teach students as if what mattered most in their lives was the number of exams they passed and how colorful their academic grades were? Now, all these are issues that Professor Balunywa has raised in his presentation. And I want to argue that the crisis of graduate unemployment, the crisis of graduate employability is embedded in the DNA of universities. Now, that DNA has to be tampered with. That DNA has to be, if necessary, genetically modified in order for us to align with the times. The fourth industrial revolution, we are not hearing about it after COVID. There have been a lot of discussions about the fourth industrial revolution and the challenges facing higher education in the COVID aftermath. Almost all of them have a bearing on the dynamics of the fourth industrial revolution. So the first thing that I would like to articulate is one, yes, we have graduates who have already come out of our universities, including those who are to graduate very soon. For those ones, we will have to do a troubleshooting intervention. Now, for those who are still in the system, since our theme is also looking at them, the universities, as a matter of urgency and top priority, must swallow their pride. I'm using extremist language, and I'm doing so intentionally. The universities must swallow their pride and respond very quickly and radically change what they do and how they do it. Meaning, change the packages, and I'm going to go a little into detail on that, change the packages that they do offer to students, and also change how they do the education business. Let me illustrate, for example. Professor Balunywa has, towards his landing in the presentation, when he was descending, he talked about, he was addressing himself to the graduates, to the students, and he was saying they have to have the right attitude. They have to be disciplined. They have to be focused. They have to be confident. They have to learn to adopt modern technologies. They have to develop social skills. And you can go on and on. And I'll tell you, these are functions of the pedagogical regime. all these, yes, we can tell the young people now, we can transfer our responsibility to them. But you see, we are not God as educators. It's only God who says, let there be, and there can be. For us as educators, everything that we want to be, we must build it within both the content and the method of the package, the education package that we give. Now, all these things that Professor Balunywa has highlighted are a responsibility of the institutions. That's what I mean by what we do and how we do it. You embed, if you want, for example, people to develop a positive attitude towards the communities where they come from. That means that you embed all these things to do with the attitude within the learning tasks that you give students. If you want them to develop critical thinking skills, this is embedded in how they learn. So it's, as I've argued before somewhere else, the new role of a teacher or an educator in the 21st century, more so in the context of the fourth industrial revolution in which we already are, the new role of an educator is a shift from being a dispenser of information and knowledge to becoming a designer. So educators now have to be designers of the learning activities, of the learning environment, of the learning processes, imagining and putting themselves in the shoes of the young people and asking, if I want these young people to be critical thinkers, to be creative, to be job creators, to have the positive attitude to work in any community, to have the positive attitude to work in any job, not necessarily the one they studied for, that has to be built within the learning processes. And there are ways of doing that. And I'm well aware that at Uganda Matters University, you have some staff who are participating in a project on pedagogy for employability. Now, this, for me, is core. If institutions are looking at moving forward and empowering those who are in their charge. With regard to those who have already gone out of the system, this is what I would suggest, and I'm glad Professor Balunywa raised it towards the end. He did suggest that government has to come in to intervene to create and cause the execution of what he called post-COVID training programs. Now, look, the people who have gone through our systems have already been, I said I'm using extremist language deliberately, have already been damaged. To use a radical language, we have miseducated them already, and they are stuck. They have given us the money, they have paid fully, but we have given them a package that actually does not enable them to fit well in the reality of life. So I think what should happen, and this also for me is a matter of urgency, is for universities to partner with industry and design troubleshooting short courses. For example, if someone has graduated with social work, social administration, someone has graduated with business and so on, but they lack some of the essentials of living and operating successfully in the fourth industrial revolution, such as the basic IT skills, such as marketing skills, such as social intelligence. Now, we should design short courses that enable every graduate, regardless of which program they studied at university, to make sense out of the knowledge they have and the skills they have in the current context. And when I talk about short courses, I mean courses that are as short as 3 weeks, and it doesn't have to be full-time, and they can be blended, both online and a few face-to-face or mentorship or something like that. Now, I'm suggesting to you things that I do for a practice as a person with people who come to me and they are looking for such troubleshooting dimensions so that they can forge a way forward. And I think these things, these programs can be developed by institutions, and we can help these young people who have already gone through the systems. Now, I also want to suggest something, again, emerging from Professor Balunywa's presentation. Can anybody, since we are going to have a discussion, can anybody share with me or with us if they know of a clear higher educational philosophy for Uganda, articulated either by the mainstream Ministry of Education or the National Council for Higher Education, and I dare say also by individual institutions? So you see, all of these diversions that we have had, and even the failure to adopt the technologies that would have prepared us for this season. In fact, if we didn't have the inertia in our institutions, if the DNA, call it the mindset of universities, was one that is very dynamic, open-minded, and adaptive, we would not be in the crisis we are in now. Because like I said at the beginning, all the technologies that we are using today to respond to COVID, we had them before COVID. But most of us, in most of the institutions, and I've been to many institutions, and I know that some institutions even used to pay for consultants to come and train their staff to adjust or to migrate to electronic teaching and learning. And the staff were negative to it, and they had all the excuses that they could give. Now, I would like to suggest that we need to move very fast for us as institutions, and yes, as a sector, higher education, to define the philosophy of higher education that informs our teaching and learning. And as I move to the conclusion of my submission, I liked the fact that Professor Balunywa alluded to some of the big employers, relatively new kids on the block, institutions like Google. Now, something fascinating about Google is those who apply to get employment in Google, from the point of application to the point of being taken on, there is nowhere in the process where Google will ever ask you for your academic papers. Google, one of the biggest employers, one of the most enviable employers, does not ask for academic qualifications, but they hire the top performers in the world. In fact, to go through a Google sieving process, first of all, it takes months. And you must prove one thing. Two things actually they measure. Because they have automated all the things that you may want to measure about someone. And they call it people analytics. They have softwares, applications, people analytics. So they are interested in your personality, they are interested in your character, and they are interested in what you can do, your deliverables, your productivity, which we are calling employability here, the value that you can add to them. They don't measure those things by asking you to sit in front of a panel. They subject you to a series of psychometric measurements, and they will, with utmost accuracy, arrive at your personality, your character, and what you are able to do. The rest, they don't want to know. They don't want to know what academic qualifications you have. So finally, I did write a paper that has not been published, but I know that some of you have it. I've shared it with some of the senior leaders at Uganda Matters University. And I gave that paper the title, I'm forgetting the phrasing exactly, but I said that thanks to COVID-19, because this is I've remembered, the rebirth of higher education, thanks to COVID-19. That's the statement of the title of the paper. And somewhere in that long paper, I did articulate that, first of all, COVID-19 for me is the best thing that has ever happened to higher education in our lifetime, because it is challenging us to do the things we ought to have done more than 10 years ago, but we were too complacent and we are locked up in a paradigm paralysis to do them. But secondly, and the point I wanted to raise as I finish, is the fact that higher education must move away from the a la carte menu system to a buffet system. The a la carte menu system suggests that if you go to a restaurant, they will give you a menu, and the menu will have specific names for specific dishes. And if you choose a specific name, that means all the ingredients, all the components, the constituents of that dish will be served to you. If it comprises of an omelette and a sausage and French fries and cabbage and tomatoes, that's what you will take, the whole package. Now, the buffet menu suggests that when I go to a restaurant and there is a buffet arrangement, I only pick that which makes sense to me. What does not make sense to me, I leave. And I'm suggesting it is time for universities to adopt a buffet menu where I come to the institution. Yes, you may define certain fundamentals, but I have to have the latitude to choose that which makes sense to me. And you don't have to put barriers, even in terms of disciplinary boundaries. In my book, the third edition of After University, What Next, I will interest all of you to the chapter, Understanding 21st Century Careers. And that chapter, in it I give an example of students from Makerere University who are from the IT unit, but who developed a medical technology. Now, this is not an isolated case. And these young people who developed the belt that diagnoses pneumonia, they had to go to the medical school and learn some aspects about malaria, about pneumonia. They had to go to statistics to learn dimensions of statistics. They had to go to mathematics and so on. So don't limit students. The era we are in is a young people's century. It's a technology-driven century. Many of us belong to the BBC generation born before computers. We don't have a clue. We are just grappling, with the new trends. These young people are on the internet all the time. They are on YouTube. They are learning from all sources. They have an idea about what they want to do and what the contribution they want to make, the things they want to create. And they know where to pick what. Let's not limit them. Let's give a buffet arrangement and minimize the a la carte arrangement. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to make this contribution. There is one thing that skipped my eye. Professor Balunywa, in 2005, I read a report that was talking about 40,000 young people joining the labor market every year, and we are creating only 8,000 new jobs every year. I read these statistics in 2005. Up to today, when I read statistics, the same statistics are still being presented. That really disturbs me. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Ambrose Chibuka, for those inspiring reflections and the discussion of the presentation of Professor Balunywa. At this moment, I would like to invite everyone to the question and answer session. I've seen already in the chat, we can use the chat also. Some people have already put some questions, and you can also put your hand up. I will begin with the Dr. Richard Ouma. I see your hand up. Be brief. Can the technical team help?
Okay. Albert, can you hear me?
We do hear you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you. I need to thank Professor Balunyo and Mr. Ambrose for those wonderful presentations. I will be brief to the point. Professor Balunyo raised a very pertinent issue that there is a limited linkage between us in higher institutions of learning and the industry. And this has in one or the other created bringing out our products that do not have the right skills. So when he mentioned the aspect of do our graduates have right skills, my mind went back because of my background on issues of quality management. My mind went back to our staffing. I said, if we are asking, do students have the right skills? My question for it went to, do our professors have the right skills? Professor Balunya, you know, the challenge of COVID came in abruptly, and we have continued channeling, and we are still channeling out our graduates. Our professors were trained some time back, and some of them adjusting takes a little bit of time. It's like when Ambrose brought in the element of a radical change. Ambrose turning people from the an-a-la-carte management or arrangement style to the buffet style may not be something that comes overnight. Are there specific ingredients, specific strategies, specific lessons that you would give some of us who are involved in the area of managing quality in high institutions, especially in influencing staff who were trained years back and having to adjust to the new trend, moving away from the a la carte to the buffet menu style? Any tangible thing that we can put into consideration to influence change?
Thank you, Richard.
Submit, Albert.
Thank you, Richard. May I take two more questions for Professor? Then I give back the mic to Professor Anyango Esther, then Ivan or Tim. Just be brief. Esther, are you there? Anyango Esther, then Ivan or Tim. Technical team, you can help them to unmute because we get muted. Technical team, can you unmute Esther in the interest of time? Can I ask the host, Ashaba, are you there? Can you help to unmute Esther? She wants to talk. If you have challenges, give me the host rights, I will do it. Ivan, can you go ahead if Esther is not?
Yeah, I'm on. I think they have unmuted me.
Yeah, you can talk now. They have made you
Yeah.
co-host.
Thank you, Doctor. I would like to appreciate Professor Waiswa for all that he has given to us. I like listening to professors.
Can you
and
be brief
what
to
they
the
give
point?
us.
Esther, can you be to the point? Don't give talks. Just what do you want to ask the professor?
Okay, I would like to know from the professor. We have heard very many things about education system of Uganda, and I would like to know from him, what impact has he caused on education system of Uganda, such that we promote skills rather than first grades. We promote creativity rather than first grades. That's the question I wanted him
Thank you,
to
Esther.
clarify to us.
Thank you, Esther. Ivan? The technical team, the host can help to quicken this process so that we save time. Ivan, can you ask your question quickly? Can the host unmute Ivan? Ivan, they have given you the co-hostship. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, Professor, for the wonderful statements that you've given us. And